In 1990, a couple from Nigeria named Charles and Veronica Antetokounmpo were blessed with a child named Francis. Due to financial hardships, they had to leave the city of Lagos in search of a better life, first in Turkey. This couple was forced to sacrifice daily and, heartbreakingly, be separated from their baby. As illegal immigrants, they were unable to settle in Turkey, so they moved on to Greece. In Greece, they began earning a living, although their existence was much like that of other low-cost residents. When Veronica gave birth to their third child, they started to contemplate obtaining legal resident status. Unfortunately, immigration could not process their requests because they had lost their passports. From that point on, they lived as illegal immigrants. By 2004, with a total of 5 children, Veronica taught them to survive on the streets by selling various types of souvenirs and constantly having to flee from immigration police. Despite the hardships, the family was happy in its own way. They managed to live despite the misery in that country and fulfill their daily needs. No matter how little they earned each day, they were always grateful. Even though Veronica had to be resourceful to manage the expenses, they even managed to buy a soccer ball for the children. Like most Nigerians who idolized J.J. Okocha, Charles also tried to instill in his sons a love for football. Besides, he always taught them the importance of sticking together and sacrificing for the sake of the family. When one person in the family scores, the whole family scores. Since all the boys were born in Greece, they were given local names, namely, Thanasis, Giannis, Kostas, and Alexandros. By 2007, Thanasis and Giannis had grown up. At that time, Charles still enjoyed taking his children to play soccer. Besides the small soccer field where they usually played, there was also a nearby basketball court. One day, Thanasis and Giannis grew curious about basketball and tried to join the other kids playing there. Owing to their tall statures, the other children welcomed them to join the game. Initially, the two did not understand the rules of basketball at all, but over time, as they began to grasp the game's flow, they acclimated to the new sport. Later, the other kids invited Thanasis and Giannis to join practices at the court owned by Philip Lidikos, one of the local basketball teams in Greece, where they received free training sessions. Throughout history, only a handful of Africans had succeeded in becoming professional basketball athletes, the first being Safakis Skorkanitis, a Cameroonian now residing in Greece, and the second, Hakeem Olajuwon, the legend of the Houston Rockets who won the NBA twice. Coincidentally, Elijahn was also Nigerian, just like Thanasis and Giannis, which ignited within them a fierce determination to excel at basketball. However, the challenge was that they needed about an hour and a half to reach Philip Lidikos' court, and both boys were afraid of being caught by their father if they ventured too far. Their illegal immigrant status compelled them to be extra cautious when traveling, yet they were desperate to work hard for a better future. Thanasis and Giannis eventually traveled to the court by metro bus. Mid-journey, the bus encountered a group of rioters who resented the presence of immigrants. When the rioters saw the two boys, they immediately launched abusive insults, and the hostile atmosphere quickly grew louder and fiercer. Fortunately, the boys managed to escape the danger and arrived at their destination safely. Once there, they entered the court and observed other children practicing basketball. Mr. Takis, the coach, noticed their arrival. Though he found it a bit odd, he allowed both Thanasis and Giannis to practice because of their notable height. Mr. Takis reminded them to obtain a letter of permission from their parents for the next session. During practice, Mr. Takis taught them how to perform mid-range shots. Thanasis, with his flexible build, found it easier, while Giannis, whose body was still stiff, struggled but remained eager to improve. When practice was over, the coach provided them with a basketball and a parental permission letter. The two excitedly asked their mother to sign the form, but when their parents discovered that they had wandered far from home, they were scolded. Fearing that the team might report them to immigration, Charles was anxious. As a result, instead of immediately signing the form, Thanasis and Giannis were punished. Fortunately, their mother, upon witnessing their sincerity, managed to persuade her husband to sign the permission. Charles eventually agreed to sign the letter. The following day, Thanasis and Giannis returned to the training ground. This time, they learned more about dribbling and ball control. While Thanasis excelled in practice and easily followed Mr. Takis' instructions, Giannis initially struggled, though he remained determined to keep practicing. Later on, when the coach introduced the fast break, requiring the team to transition from defense to offense in just 8 seconds, despite dominating rebounds, Giannis was slow in decision-making. Yet, Thanasis continuously encouraged his brother. Meanwhile, after some time, Veronica kept in touch with Francis in Nigeria, promising that one day they would all be reunited as a family. Despite the family's constant struggle as illegal immigrants, Charles worked as a laborer, also serving as a caretaker for the elderly at a nursing home, while their two sons began their journey as rookie basketball players with the mission of elevating their family's dignity. Over time, their situation improved, and Giannis was particularly inspired by his brother's efforts. One day, Charles visited the training ground to speak with Mr. Takis. The coach believed Thanasis was ready to play in the Greek league. Coincidentally, several teams had already expressed interest. He also felt that Thanasis had a chance to join the Greek national team. Hearing this, Charles was both happy and worried. He feared that if any of his children became too prominent, their illegal immigrant status might be exposed. Under pressure, however, Charles finally accepted Panario's proposal, as the Greek Sea Basketball League team intended to recruit Thanasis. In fact, Thanasis even received a check as a sign of signing the deal, and the whole family was overjoyed by the good news, remembering Charles's principle that when one person in the family scores, the entire family scores. To celebrate, they all went into the city for a little fun and decided to buy 2 pairs of basketball shoes for Thanasis and Giannis. Unfortunately, when they attempted to cash the check, it was cancelled. It turned out that the Panarios had discovered that Thanasis's family was undocumented, and they were punished by the Federation for recruiting illegal immigrants, thereby withdrawing their interest in Thanasis. Heartbroken, Thanasis was crushed, but Giannis stepped up to support him. Determined to prove himself in the name of his family's honor, Giannis trained even harder, practicing jump shots, dribbling, and rebounding tirelessly. Witnessing his son's determination, Charles was moved and resolved to help make his children's dreams come true. As a former football player, he knew what it meant to fulfill a dream. One day, he surprised them all by gifting each child a pair of Nike Air Force One shoes, widely beloved by basketball players. Believing that his children had given their best, Charles felt they deserved the reward. Both Thanasis and Giannis eagerly put on their new shoes that very night, practicing a one-on-one match in the rain. For what felt like the umpteenth time, Charles applied for permanent residency as an illegal immigrant, but was repeatedly refused. He expressed his annoyance, reasoning that since he was now a permanent employee, he deserved permanent residency. The immigration staff bluntly informed him that given the current state of the country, there was little chance of him receiving it. Then came a trial match, and Giannis began to earn opportunities to play. Though he was still not performing well enough in the matches, the coach was often upset with his mistakes. Determined, Giannis continued pushing himself to reach the highest level. He filled his days watching Magic Johnson clips while practicing relentlessly, never giving up on becoming the best. By 2011, Giannis had developed into a decent basketball player, his jump shots had markedly improved, and he was a regular on the team. His on-court chemistry with Thanasis earned the respect of other teams. One day, 2 scouts arrived to assess new talent. One of them recommended both Giannis and Thanasis, as they were playing well in the final minutes of a match. However, a key player was injured due to a sprained ankle and had to be substituted, with Thanasis taking over the lead position for his team. At that moment, Giannis demonstrated his leadership by making vital assists, scoring abundantly, and showcasing defensive skills that helped his team secure a win. After the match, the scouts debated between Thanasis and Giannis, but Paco ultimately decided not to consider both. One of them, named Horace Eleftheria, then introduced himself to Charles, saying he was interested in becoming an agent for the 2 children. When asked about Paco, Horace remarked that while they were not partners, he was indeed the most influential scout in the Greek league. Charles relayed Horace's offer to his sons, and young Thanasis eagerly accepted it. Horace promised to work tirelessly to skyrocket Giannis's profile in the league. Sometime later, Harris visited Giannis's house and reported that he had contacted a Greek team, and Paco had informed him that no team would accept illegal immigrant players. Therefore, Harris proposed that Giannis might reach the international level through the FIBA regional tryout. FIBA, the International Basketball Federation, usually hosted scouts from all over Europe, and if Giannis was successfully recruited, his family status would gain even more attention. This time, Charles prepared himself. If they were to hit the jackpot, they had to be willing to take risks. From that moment on, Giannis's role was to lift his family into a better life. Realizing his newfound purpose, he trained even harder, even staying on the basketball court overnight for extra practice sessions. It was time for the FIBA regional tryout. Giannis played with several other assembled players as his team faced off against rivals. The entire family came to support him, especially both of his parents, who were anxious throughout the match. Charles was so anxious he briefly left the court to step outside. The match continued as Giannis strove for his best performance until finally, the lead player, the Thanasis, called his father and announced that Giannis had performed flawlessly and dominated the game. Charles returned to the court and congratulated his son. At the same time, Horace was busy fulfilling his duties, and he soon brought good news. Basket Zaragoza, a Spanish team, was ready to sign Giannis. Although Greek teams still fretted over the residency statuses of their players, the more risk-taking Spanish teams were prepared to offer a visa and even provide a down payment of 10% of the contract money. However, Giannis didn't want to leave his family behind. He asked if he could bring them along to Zaragoza. Harris returned to renegotiate, and while they anxiously waited for Horace, surprisingly, Paco appeared at their home. After hearing about the signing contract from Basket Zaragoza, Paco informed Giannis that the Greek teams had changed their minds and even offered a bonus of €5,000 to invite Giannis to their office. Paco explained that he had received offers from brave Greek teams willing to recruit Giannis and provide permanent residence visas for his entire family. He urged them to forget Harris for a moment. Tempted by the offer, they finally decided to discuss it. Charles was particularly enticed by the proposition from the Greek teams, reasoning that if Giannis accepted and played for them, the family would be guaranteed unity. But Giannis felt uneasy at the thought of leaving Horace behind, and even Veronica agreed that it would be wrong to forget those who had worked hard for them. After the meeting, as they left the kitchen, Charles confidently handed over the money to Paco. Rejected, Paco grew disappointed and angry. As he walked to his car, he threatened to report them to immigration authorities. Not long after, Harris returned with big news. He informed them that Zaragoza did not guarantee support for the Antetokounmpo family visa. On the bright side, Horace had included Giannis on the NBA draft list that year. Horace had sent Giannis's profile video to a fellow American agent, who, intrigued, immediately included him on the NBA draft list. Furthermore, Zaragoza's contract with Harris included a release clause stating that if any NBA team showed interest, Giannis could immediately go to America without needing to play in the Spanish league. The NBA team would undoubtedly secure the financial stability of his family in the US. Yet, there was risk. If he wasn't selected in the NBA draft, Giannis would have to return to Spain alone, exposing his family's situation in Greece. After many trips back and forth to manage the visa for America, they eventually obtained a temporary visa. Notably, the visa spelled their family name in Greek and transformed it into Antetokounmpo, as it is known today. Accompanied by Thanasis and Horace, Giannis then headed to the airport, preparing to fly to New York City with the huge mission of being selected in the NBA draft and reuniting his family in a new country with Francis. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Kevin Stephanides, an American agent and Harris's colleague. Visiting the big metropolis was a novel experience for Giannis and his brothers, especially if Giannis ended up being contracted by an NBA team. Their plan the next day was to strategize for the draft and meet representatives from Nike in the evening. Giannis hardly believed that Nike, the company whose shoes he often wore, was the very one they were discussing, as they explored the possibility of obtaining an endorsement deal. NBA Draft Day had always been a focal point for every basketball fan in America, a time when wonder kids from university leagues and international teams began their pro careers. Horace and Kevin planned for Giannis to be picked between the 12th and 15th spots. Teams such as the Philadelphia 76ers, Utah Jazz, New Orleans Pelicans, and Milwaukee Bucks were in the mix. That evening, they met a Nike representative who asked Giannis to compare his selling points with other players. Giannis, feeling that he lacked obvious distinguishing features, recounted his humble background and his family's struggles, how he was an immigrant who once lived on the brink of poverty, how he rarely had shoes and often borrowed from his brothers, and even how he once slept on the court to catch the morning training session. He spoke of integrity, the struggle for life, and loyalty. Deeply moved, the Nike representative promised to deliver the news after draft day. When NBA Draft Day arrived, Giannis entered the room in a neat suit and attempted a smile for everyone. The 76ers, among others, saw potential but sought ready-made talent, including teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder and Utah Jazz, and judged Giannis not quite ready for the big stage. A lengthy conversation ensued with John Hammond, GM of the Milwaukee Bucks, who interviewed Giannis to gauge his mindset. John Hammond seemed indeed interested, though he noted that Giannis needed more time to refine his form and address his residency issues, a matter he deemed very risky at the time. Consequently, when David Stern stepped up to the podium to announce the draft, that moment became the most thrilling for everyone, especially for Giannis, as it marked not only the start of his career but also the survival of his family. The first player drafted into the NBA was Anthony Bennett, a Canadian whose career did not flourish. The second pick went to Victor Oladipo, whose career thrived, making several NBA All-Star teams. Oladipo was also of Nigerian descent. Many names were called up to the 14th pick, but Yaz's name had not yet been mentioned. Everyone was nervous, especially the family in Greece who watched the event with anticipation. Finally, the last team selected was the Milwaukee Bucks. Neither Horace nor Kevin had received any contact from them, but just as destiny would have it, Giannis's name was drafted at 15th place to join the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that would later elevate him to the NBA Elite League. In that team, Giannis developed into one of the best players in the NBA. Most importantly, his success united his entire family, including his oldest brother Francis, in America. There you have it. What did you think of that movie? Like and subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments section. See you next for more fun recaps.